Taste the Mediterranean through March 19th at Whole Foods Market. Save on animal welfare certified bone and beef short ribs, sustainable wild-caught sockeye salmon, and more. Find sales on Parmigiano Reggiano, charcuterie and ground lamb. Grab an olive boule bread from the bakery. Plus, wines from the Mediterranean start at just $8.99. Taste the Mediterranean now at Whole Foods Market. Must be 21 plus. Please drink responsibly.
This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Tall Man Equipment. Tall Man Equipment prides itself in having more lineman tools in stock than anyone else. And now, when you're shopping online at tallmanequipment.com, look for the truck logo that says Fast Ship on hundreds of items on their website. That logo means that item is in stock and ready to ship the same day in most cases. When it comes to getting the tools and equipment linemen need, trust Tall Man. Line 11 Clothing Company, making apparel for our first responders with a positive message to patriots that you can be proud of. The proceeds of the cause goes to helping our foundation ignite the fire for father engagement. Give them a follow at Line 11 Clothing on Instagram. And finally, Monzingo Knives. Each knife is created with craftsmanship that only a tradesman could provide. Find them on Instagram at Monzingo Knives and get your American-made Monzingo knife today. Hey guys, this is Jennie and David, and today together we're going to discuss about marriages, okay? All marriages, even the really good ones, need mending. The routine of jobs, kids, chores, and other commitments can overshadow romance and passion with any husband and wife. As a result, couples can feel disillusioned or even alone. That is why we have created this marriage series, a platform for husbands and wives to come on and share what they do to be successful. So today we want to discuss about why men have a difficult time talking about the past, especially when our spouses come to us and they want to deal with certain traumas or certain hurts or certain beliefs that they might have from the past. So we want to discuss that today as our major topic. So what do you think, babe?
I just noticed that in dealing with couples and even in our own relationship, there has always been like a resistance from men, and not everybody is like this, but it seems to be a difficult thing for men to talk about the past with their spouse, and it seems like women don't really know how to bring it up to their man on how to talk about it without blaming. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we do discuss things like this, the hard topics, I like to, call it, a lot of times it's difficult for us to be able to talk about it because we can't solve it, whether it be from the past or whatever. As men, we tend to want to fix things, and when we get these thoughts, or when our wives come to us with these past hurts or whatever, these traumas, we don't know how to fix it. We automatically go in there, so we get defensive. I know, at least for me, I would get defensive. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't fix it and I couldn't change what I had done. So I would get very defensive, and it was hurtful, and I didn't want to talk about it. So I just completely just shut you down, even though you were trying to deal with the trauma. And a lot of times with trauma, we need to talk about it. That way we can go ahead and go over it and over in our brain. That way there can be some kind of healing that's involved with it when we talk about it and understanding, correct?
I think a lot of women want to talk about the past with their spouses because a trauma has happened and they're attempting to process it. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's funny because men and women who usually don't want to talk about the past are missing an opportunity to get closer with their spouse and learn how to problem solve. Mm-hmm. Like they're missing an opportunity on a chance to problem solve and work through some issues. Like if you think about it, when you go to therapy mm-hmm. or counseling, what do you do in therapy and counseling? You talk about the past, so that way you could process those traumas and stuff like that. And so I think a lot of people wouldn't need as much therapy if they were able to go to their spouse, have a safe space, and then be able to process the traumas. But of course, it has to be done in a safe manner, right? So what are some ways that like a woman can approach a man in a safe way that would make a man feel able to discuss it and talk about it with that woman, with their spouse?
I think for men, you know, when you're talking about that, I think if you come to them and you don't use accusations or accusatory words, you know, because men don't like to be called out a lot of times, okay, and they don't like fingers being pointed at them, okay. So for spouses to come to them and, you know, be able to want to share these traumas with them, they need to come to or approach a man in a way that is, look, honey, I don't know if you meant this, or I don't know what was going on back in the day, but this is how it made me feel. For me, I know that that's an easier approach. Kind of easing in versus, you know, going full throttle. This is what you did. This is how you made me feel. Whatever, you know? Yeah.
I think sometimes women haven't had a chance to talk about it with their spouses, or vice versa. Even a man might not be able to speak about it with their wife. And then when they get the chance to, I know like anytime we would have an argument or something, and it opened the door for me to talk about something that I haven't processed yet, I would like dump it all out right then and there because it hadn't been dealt with, and
it built up. And
so then it comes off as blaming and hateful and in a way that's not nice. But I mean, I hope I'm getting better at it. Where I'm starting to just like bite off little pieces now. I think also because we do so much talking now that it's a little easier, and it's not so, you did this and I'm hurt and all this stuff.
I think too, the time too, you gotta time it. I mean, obviously a guy who's worked all day, he's tired, he's stressed, he hasn't eaten, whatever, all these different things that affect a man, right? And his emotions. I think when you can pick a time and be like, hey, look, I have something to talk about. You know, I know you're probably tired right now, and, you know, when's the best time to come with you with this so we can actually have some important discussions that I'd like to share with you. I think that's a good thing, because a lot of times you haven't seen your husband all day. You're sitting at the house, if you're a stay-at-home mom or whatever, you're dwelling, you're thinking on these things, and the first thing that happens is the man comes home, he steps in the door, and you just verbally assault them with, you know, like you said, vomiting, correct? And
yeah, it just all comes out all at once because you're like, okay, I have an opportunity. We need to deal with all this stuff because it's never dealt with. So I'm going to put everything out there. And I think that's why sometimes like small arguments turn into these knockout, drag out type of situations where like a spouse is bringing up all the things from the past. And I think if that's happening in your relationship, maybe it's because there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been worked on. There's things that haven't been heard. Like one of the spouses hasn't processed that trauma. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think that wives, if you want to talk to your husbands, definitely start off the way that Jimmy Evans has explained, right? Hey, you're my best friend. I love you. You're a great dad.
Butter them up, right? That's that greasing I was talking about.
And then don't go into blaming right away. Just say, you know, I want to talk about something that has hurt me. I don't know if you meant it this way, but this is the way I experienced it. And I love you and I believe we're on the same team, but this really hurt me and I don't know how to deal with it.
And men, when your spouse comes to you with that, they just want to talk. Okay, they don't expect you to fix anything. They just want to dump on you, like my wife was saying. They just want to to get a better understanding. They're trying to process it. And sometimes the best way to allow them to process is just be there to listen and to be there to be that shoulder for them, you know, for them to come to you and comfort them.
Empathy.
Exactly.
Empathy. I think a lot of women are really hoping their husband will be like, man, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I love you. You're my wife. You know, I never meant to hurt you in that way. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of wives are hoping that their husbands would be, you know, acknowledge the pain that they've caused, and that, or may not have directly tried to cause, and just say, you know, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I think that's a big part.
I definitely think that would help a lot, you know, in both cases. You know, one, the wife coming to the husband, you know, greasing him up like my wife discussed, and two, showing that empathy on the man's behalf, right? Just being able to put yourself in their shoes and not try to solve their problems, but just be there for them to consult them, right? Just to be like, hey man, I'm sorry that I did that. You know, I hope I'm getting better at that. Yeah,
you're getting a lot better at it. I think you're doing better than I am in this whole, like, with us working on our communication skills and problem solving skills. But I have a question for you. When a woman has discussed it with you, like a problem, and then they come back with it again, how do you feel about it? Because normally I feel like sometimes it can be frustrating when the same questions come up, the same pain comes up, and a person's just still trying to process it. And so sometimes things come up over and over and over again, and it's the same thing. And sometimes you feel like, man, we already discussed this.
No, and I could see how men, you know, could see that, or even women. I know I did. I thought about it like, man, we've already talked about this, you know, but me going through my trauma and stuff like that and being able to grieve, you know, I see it through a different perspective as well, and see that you're dealing with the trauma. You're not accusing them, but you are having to work it out in your brain because you don't understand it. So when you continuously bring up the same thing over and over again, it's not to hit, kick a dead horse or anything like that, as the old term says. It's because you're trying to process what actually really happened. And I liken that to one of our psychologists that come on here. He talked about how sexual trauma, you know, like a lot of these traumas for these little kids who have been molested or whatever, and the reason why they reenact it in other kids when they're little is because they're trying to figure out and process what happened to them. They don't understand it, so they have to reenact what was done to them in order for them to figure out, man, what happened to me? Why did this happen? And stuff like that. And I think a lot of times as adults, when we keep reliving it, we keep not reliving it, but we keep asking the question why this happened, or keep bringing it up. It's because you're trying to process it in the same way, I believe. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think like one of our counselors had said that the more you talk about something, the further back in the brain it kind of moves. So it's not so much in the conscious anymore. It starts moving further back and becomes like it starts to process, almost like you're putting it through like a mailing system or a filing system. Like, okay, it reached this destination, so now we're going to process it here. And then, so we've processed it enough on this step, so now it goes into further processing.
Way back. You know? And that's where we really actually want it. We want it way back. We don't want it in our forefront. We want it to go from that. I think it's the amygdala back to the back of your head, you know. We don't want it at your forefront to where it just continuously consumes your whole thought process, your relationships and everything, because that's when it starts affecting your marriage, your work, your everything, you know. One of the things about trauma that I thought that was interesting was that anytime you've experienced something traumatic in life, your body goes into this warning system, and you could probably talk a little bit more about that, to where you're at this heightened sense, to where anytime anything reminds you of that trauma, you start getting these warning signs that say, hey, that is dangerous. I don't like that. I don't want to deal with that right now.
Yeah, so the brain is really smart. It categorizes and files everything that you do, everything that happens in your life, and especially with trauma. When a trauma happens in your life, your brain is essentially plastic, meaning that it's the most malleable. Behaviors and things like that actually take root faster during those times. And so when you go through trauma and stuff like that, and it happens over and over and over, you can actually end up staying in fight or flight. And so then you're just kind of reacting rather than really thinking about what you're doing and stuff like that. And your body's constantly in a position of fight or flight, meaning that the brain tells the body to push all the blood out from its central system, like the organs and everything, out into the arms and legs, so that way you can prepare to fight or or run, basically, which is survival. And a lot of people don't understand that when you're in a survival position, how stressful this is actually on the body, because your body's producing cortisol, which is the stress hormone. This is also the hormone that they give you if you've had like an organ transplant or something, to suppress your immune system, so that way the body won't reject like the organs. But your body produces this naturally, and it suppresses your immune system and all these different things. And if you're constantly in this state, you're constantly under stress, you're not thinking correctly, your reactions are going to be really bad and stuff like that. And then little things are going to set you off. You're going to be triggered by little things, and then your brain's going to calculate that, and it's going to categorize it, and it's going to put in a place where now little things are related to that big trauma, and that's not a good thing. So it's really important that people can process the traumas that they're going through rather than stuffing it down, because it affects your health in such a like drastic, crazy way.
And I think that's where a lot of people are today is, you know, I know a bunch of guys I talk to, they're concerned about their weight. They can't lose weight. They're on diets. Their test levels are lower, everything. And if they really take the time to deal with actually what is going on with them internally, you know what I mean, the traumas or whatever it is that, you know, they're dealing with, I mean, we could solve a lot of problems, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I mean, even stress at work or whatever, if you're in a constant state of stress, you're constantly stressing your body, and then you're going and drinking afterwards, which is another stressor on the body. I mean, just stress after stress after stress. The body can only take so much, and usually the result is like an illness or something, or, you know, you break down, or you start having issues in your relationships, because usually the people that suffer are the ones that are closest. Always. I don't know why that is, but we just feel...
I think the reason that is because they know the real you. They're around you. You know what I mean? Like at work you're a certain way or whatever, you know, but the people that are going to pay the price are the ones who actually know you, the ones you can be real with. You know, you don't have to put on a face or whatever, and those are the ones that usually tend to suffer. And your kids too. I mean, your kids, if you really think about it, if you're stressed, your cortisol's all out of whack, and you're stressed because of a new job, or because you don't know how to put boundaries and you don't know how to say no, and now you're feeling bad because you feel like they're taking advantage of you or whatever, you know, you're going to bring that home. You're dealing with it, you're thinking about it, you're internalizing it, and then you bring it home and it comes out burst, you know, and then you're flashing on your kids when they ask you to play with them or whatever. I know I dealt with that. We had a past guest who talked about toothpaste theory, where when you roll it up, a bottle of toothpaste, and you're continuously rolling it up, eventually it's going to explode, and it's going to come out not only out of the top, but out of everywhere. You know, and that's what happens with anger when we internalize it, when we're not dealing with it, when we're not talking about it. You know, so it's important for that communication to happen. And what better way to communicate with your spouse?
Yeah, I think actually an awesome opportunity. And, you know, talking about anger, I think when we don't address the things that have hurt us in a marriage, then it turns into anger, which simmers and turns into bitterness, which simmers, which turns into bad behavior in the marriage and disrespectful behavior and all kinds of different things, you know? So definitely you want to deal with those issues so they don't turn into anger.
What does Jimmy Evans say? He says something about unprocessed anger is...
He said it's old anger or whatever. You don't want to go... He always says not to go to bed angry. Because then it'll turn into like old anger. And it's been there for a while. Whereas like new anger, like if you're upset about something new and you deal with it right then and there, it doesn't stay in the crock pot.
Doesn't stay there simmering. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, and definitely what she's talking about going to bed angry, you know, deal with your issues, man. Deal with them. Don't go to bed angry. Don't get foothold for the enemy to work in and weasel into your marriage. Prime example, you guys get in a fight, you don't deal with something, you guys go to bed, you're angry, you're at separate ends of the bed. You know, no feet touching, nothing. You know what I mean? And you guys are angry. For one, you don't get a good night's rest. Number two, you go to work and you're always constantly worried about the other person, what they're doing or whatever. And number three, when you're by yourself, then that's when the enemy attacks. You know, there's a saying that says a house divided cannot stand. And that's absolutely true. If you guys are separated, right? And you guys aren't on the same page because you're angry at each other or whatever, that's a way where the enemy can worm his way into your guys' life and start working on you individually and start bringing the lies, start telling you deserve better, you know, your husband's this, your wife's this, whatever, you know what I mean? And then if you listen to that long enough, then you start believing that, and that becomes a belief here, and then it goes into your heart, and once you internalize it into your heart, then you start acting out on these things, you know what I mean? That's the importance of being able to communicate and process traumas.
But I also think too, like, a lot of people take the don't go to bed angry thing to an extreme, and then they're up all night arguing and stuff like that. That's not beneficial either. You know, I think what my husband kind of means, or maybe you don't mean this, I don't know. I can't speak for you, but I think a good way to say it is, you know, if you can't resolve it that night and you're both getting tired and stuff like that, go to bed, break the ice with each other, snuggle, make love, whatever, but do it with the intention that the next day you're going to revisit it after you both have had some rest, and you guys are going to discuss it. You know,
I like that.
Instead of like, oh, we gotta solve this tonight. But sometimes, man, it can't be solved when you're triggered.
No, then you start marathoning, and that's not a good thing either.
Yeah, it's not. So I mean, go to bed, snuggle. You're always really good at breaking the ice in bed, because I'm always the one on the other end, and I could feel your feet come. And sometimes
you've actually gotten better now.
Yeah.
Though. You come to me now, and it's like
I inch my feet to you, and we touch feet, and then you always grab me and hug me, which is good. It always helps so much when you break the ice, because it makes all the difference in the world. I sleep so much better.
So, you guys, like we discussed, you know, talk to your wives, talk to your husbands. Husbands, make it a safe space for them to come to you. And wives, don't accuse your husbands. You know, and husbands, don't try to solve the problems. We can't. You know, just be there for them, be that shoulder for them to cry on, and just tell them you're sorry. You know, sometimes that's all they want to hear. Help them to process it. And
that you love them. Everybody should hear that they are loved by their spouse.
I love you.
I love you too. Right? It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, no,
because then you're like reminded that both of you are on the same team. I think we want to avoid the "you're my enemy" thinking, you know.
Yeah, that doesn't produce any good fruit at all, you know, especially when you start thinking that, hey man, this person is here to hurt me, this person is whatever, you know, whatever it is that the enemy twists into your head, you know, it's not good. And also pay attention, guys, to in your head the narrative that you're creating. Well, this person doesn't love me, this person doesn't respect me, whatever, you know what I mean? You need to silence that by seeing their actions. If their actions say otherwise, that's what you want to listen to. That's the truth you want to listen to. There's a lot of noise out there in the world today. And if we get in our heads and we start paying attention to that voice that says, oh, they hate me, they don't love me, she don't respect me, all she wants is my money, whatever it may be, you know, what is her action saying? What is his action saying?
That's good.
If they're contrary to each other, what are you going to listen to?
Yeah.
You know?
So, like, because we all tell a story to ourselves about our spouse or other people, right? So, does the story match up with the pictures?
Yes. Absolutely. Exactly.
I should have been a kindergarten teacher. No, just kidding.
Well, once again, guys, this is Jennie and David, and we're here from our foundation just helping you guys out. I hope this answers a lot of questions. I hope this is able to help you guys, you know, stay united as a family, because right now more than ever I feel that the family dynamic is being attacked. I talk to a lot of people from all over the world, and that's the main thing that they're seeing, is that the family unit is being attacked. And what better way to destroy a nation by separating the nuclear family? You know, because a house divided cannot stand. And that's what you're seeing. So let's start in our families, guys. Everybody's always out to save the world and everything like that. Well, let's save our families.
And let's view talking about the past as an opportunity to get closer to each other and help each other heal. Rather than viewing it as a blame game or disrespect or anything like that.
I like that. Absolutely. Well, once again, this is David and Jennie. You guys have a great one. Thank you.